Okay guys, so following on in our Bubishi analysis of the Kempo Hakku, phrase number 4, adapt according to time and change. Relatively straightforward this one, it kind of does what it says on the tin. So adapting to changing conditions, adapting to a changing environment. Now whether we look at that in the here and now in terms of how we present ourselves towards the enemy, obviously we might have a game plan in place. Everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. So we need to be able to be adaptable and malleable in order to, do the right thing according to the situation. Now, with regards to the art in general, I think one problem we face as martial artists, certainly within the classical martial arts, is that we cling to the past a little bit too much, not so much if you're part of this Patreon site, you're probably a little bit more contemporary minded and a little bit more analytical in nature, maybe not so attached. But if you look across the board, across styles, across organizations, across lineage, there is very much this set in stone kind of mindset. It's this very fixed mindset when it comes to the arts. And this somewhat strange belief that a period in time was the peak of evolution in the arts, and that any deviation from what they were doing at that time would be to undermine the art or to harm its development. Yet nowhere else in any field do we have that viewpoint, so it's somewhat dogmatic, and it was something that I ran into over and over again, banging my head against the wall with the martial arts, is that because I had kind of a mind that was always questioning, always asking why, always trying to figure out why we did this stuff, but I was unable to find answers in many places because people simply weren't asking the questions, and they could not kind of even comprehend why I would be asking these questions. It was kind of it's not important. Why would you even be thinking that, So for me, if we are to approach martial arts as an art, we have to be questioning. We have to be open to discussion. We have to be open to changing our opinion on things, about forming new opinions, about researching new avenues, and then challenging what we believe to be true. This is what I believe this phrase in the Bubishi implies, and why it's so important. It puts the onus back on us, Even though this text, the Bubishi, written in, who knows what, probably in the 1800s sometime. But even within that, it's saying this is a time capsule. This is a set of beliefs that held true at this time, and it may or may not be relevant, dependent upon your physical environment and your place in time. So again, this is something else we need to discuss about the physical environment. Things that were relevant in Okinawa perhaps were not relevant in China, and vice versa, The propensity of weapons, the availability of bladed weapons in particular, clothing, customs, the terrain. All these aspects play a big role in how the art was developed and how it was used. Now, if we take that art and we transport it to modern day New York or modern day London or whatever, the environment is different. Even if we look at the terrain we stand upon, it's very different. The clothing we wear, very different. The way people fight in the East as opposed to in the West now. The availability of weapons, the likelihood of using such weapons, it's an entirely different ballgame. The use of communication, verbal and non-verbal, when it comes to dealing with aggression, when it comes to defusing a situation or escalating a situation, is entirely different dependent upon the situation. It will be, even in the same environment, dependent upon your position in that environment. So we might be talking about a law enforcement, we might be talking about a teacher, we might be talking about a cashier, a checkout staff, we might be talking about someone just walking their kid to school. That position or that hat we wear at that particular time and that particular space has a massive effect upon how we use the art and the tactics we might have to employ, the things we might have to consider. Whether we are alone or whether we're with other people, are they dependent upon us? Do we need to think about protecting them? Ultimately, that limits our ability to escape a situation, because now We are now, the onus is on us as a protector. Rather than protecting ourselves, we are now protecting somebody else. So again, that completely changes the tactical decisions we have to make. So even within this relatively straightforward, simple phrase, there's a lot of different things to consider. And it goes quite deep when it comes to understanding martial strategy, understanding martial thought, and understanding how this art relates to a modern context. Even though we are practicing a tradition, how is that tradition still relevant? And what parts of that tradition would now harm us if we try to use them in the environment we find ourselves in now?